On April 20th, 1999, 18-year-old Eric Harris and 17-year-old Dylan Klebold killed 12 students and a teacher at Columbine High School massacre. The two were allegedly obsessed with the video game Doom. In April 2000, 16-year-old Spanish teenager Jose murdered his father, mother, and sister with a katana, proclaiming that he was on an avenging mission by Leon, the main character of the video game Final Fantasy VIII. In November 2001, 21-year-old American Sean Woolley committed suicide after what his mother claimed was an addiction to EverQuest. In February 2003, 16-year-old Dustin Lynch was charged with aggravated murder and made an insanity defense that he was obsessed with Grand Theft Auto 3. On December 27, 2004, 13-year-old Zhao Yi committed suicide by jumping from a 24-story building in Tianjin, China, as a result of the effects of his addiction, hoping to be reunited with his fellow gamers in the afterlife. According to his suicide notes, prior to his death, he spent 36 consecutive hours playing World of Warcraft 3. In August 2005, 28-year-old South Korean Lee Sung-suk died after playing StarCraft for 50 hours straight. On June 2007, 22-year-old Alejandro Garcia from Texas shot dead his cousin after arguing over whose turn it was to play the game Scarface, The World Is Yours. He pleaded guilty for murder at his trial on April 6, 2011, and will serve 15 to 30 years in prison. In December 2007, 17-year-old Lamar Roberts and 16-year-old Heather were accused of beating 7-year-old girl to death. They are said to have been imitating the moves taken from the game Mortal Kombat. In September 2007 in Ohio, 16-year-old Daniel Petrick snuck out of his bedroom window to purchase the game Halo 3 against the orders of his father, a minister at New Life Assembly of God in Wellington, Ohio. His parents eventually banned him from the game after he spent up to 18 hours a day with it, and secured it in a lockbox in a closet where the father also kept a 9mm handgun. In October of 2007, Daniel used his father's key to open the lockbox and remove the handgun and the game. He then entered the living room of his house and shot both of them in the head, killing his mother and wounding his father. Petrick is sentenced to life in prison without parole, which was later commuted to 23 years in imprisonment. Defense attorney argued that Petrick was influenced by video game addiction, but the court dismissed these claims. The judge, Chambers, commented that while he thought there was ample evidence the boy knew what he was doing, Burr thought the game had an effect on him like a drug, saying, "I firmly believe that Daniel Petrick had no idea at the time he hatched the plot that if he killed his parents, they would be dead forever." It would seem that after hearing these instances of video games followed by crime, there must be some relationship between video gaming and murderous behavior. But despite having discovered these instances where video games seem to be the cause of crimes, I still think that video games, even violent video games, have no effect on the destructive nature of people. And some of the reasons why I believe this is because there are many people that play video games that do not act out on society. I believe that aggressive tendencies are learned through family relationships and not the media, and certain aspects of video games can be healthy. A study by Dr. Craig A. Anderson says, quote, "The 14-year-old boy arguing that he has played violent video games for years and has not ever killed anybody is absolutely correct in rejecting the extreme and necessary position. It is as the 45-year-old 2-pack-a-day cigarette smoker who knows that he does still not have lung cancer. But both are wrong in inferring that their exposure to their respective risk factors has not causally increased the likelihood that they and people around them will one day suffer the consequences of that risky behavior. But I believe that whatever risk factors there are that causally increase are negligible, if not non-existent. Proof of this can be found in the statement of media scholar Henry Jenkins, who says, quote, "According to federal crime statistics, the rate of juvenile crime in the United States is at a 30-year low. Researchers found that people serving time for violent crimes typically consume less media before committing their crimes than the average person in the general population. It's true that young offenders who have committed school shootings in America have also been game players. but young people in general are more likely to be gamers. 90% of boys and 40% of girls play. The overwhelming majority of kids who play do not commit antisocial acts. The definition of antisocial is that being referred to here is the personality disorder that can be described as antagonistic, hostile, or unfriendly towards others, menacing, threatening, opposed to, detrimental to the society, order, or principles on which society is constituted. Definitions provided by dictionary.com. Research published in 2001 suggests that violent video games may increase mild forms of aggressive behavior in children and young adults. Analysis also shows that exposure to violent video games results in increased physiological arousal, aggression-related thoughts and feelings, as well as decreased prosocial behavior. The research comprised a meta-analysis, laboratory, and field studies. However, meta-analysis by other groups have not replicated these same findings, and these other groups have been critical of attempts to link violent games with aggression. For instance, John Sherry has said, further, why do some researchers, like Anderson, continue to argue that video games are dangerous despite the evidence to the contrary? Some researchers believe that while playing violent video games leads to violent actions, there are also biological influences that impact a person's choices. According to Sean B. Newbert of Rochester Institute of Technology, a person who is biologically predisposed to aggression will be more strongly influenced by violent scenes, and thus will have a greater risk for carrying out destructive actions. For example, someone with antisocial personality disorder has a greater risk of going out and shooting someone after playing hours of Grand Theft Auto or a game of similar nature. According to a 2001 U.S. Surgeon General's report, the strongest risk factors for school shootings centered on mental stability and the quality of home life, not media exposure. The moral panic over violent video games is doubly harmful. It has led adult authorities to be more suspicious and hostile than many kids who already feel cut off from the system. It also misdirects energy away from eliminating the actual causes of youth violence and allows problems to continue to fester. And finally, I come to the argument that millions of children around the world have tried time and time again to make, and that parents around the globe are sick and tired of hearing. And that's that video games can actually be healthy. Sean Green and Daphne of the Department of Brain and Cognitive Sciences, Center for Visual Science, University of Rochester, has stated in a letter to Nature, an international weekly journal of science, that it has been shown that action video game players have better eye-hand coordination and visual motor skills, such as their resistance to distraction, their sensitivity to information in peripheral vision, and their ability to count briefly presented objects and non-pairs. Video games also develop the individual's intelligence, and in social games develop the social capabilities of the individual. Another argument that can be made is that playing video games can help relieve stress by allowing the player to express themselves in ways not acceptable or not possible in the real world. A news article posted in Science 2.0 titled "Violent Video Games Help Kids Manage Stress" has found over 49% of boys and 25% of girls use violent video games to use as an outlet for their anger. Dr. Olson has come to the conclusion that violent games affect students positively and not negatively, because violent crime rate is going down while the popularity of M-rated video games has increased. Having shown that there are many video gamers that do not commit crimes, and that media does not teach aggression compared to the impact that the family has on a child, and that video game can be healthy in certain aspects, and led to the conclusion that video games, even violent video games, are not destructive in nature. Now I'd like to call the listeners of my message to an action that can be best summed up by a quote from Dr. Olson, who suggests that instead of stopping children from playing M-rated games completely, parents should just monitor how much time their children spend playing games. Parents should take the responsibility. And now I'd like to leave with the idea that maybe video games aren't quite as bad as people like to think they are. There are underlying benefits that go with the responsible playing of video games, and maybe they aren't actually the same waste of time that they have been referred to as. If anything is rotting the brains of America, it's television.